Now we need to add another piece to all of this so it begins to make more sense. And you can begin to see that this is just not fantasy, but this is science and mathematics. There was a man named Carl Munck who discovered something incredible. And this was toward the end of last century, I think, maybe even as early as the 1980s. But he discovered that when you go to any of these pyramids and churches and temples around the world, that they have a code written on the outside of the building. You don't even have to go inside. It has to do with the shape, with the number of steps, and a lot of different forms that are on the outside of these things. You can go onto his website if you wish to understand what he's talking about in detail. And this is just a review of his work, by the way. This is, I'm not going to go into great detail on this. I'm only going to just give a review of it. So each one of these pyramids, when you look at them, or buildings, will, from the external view of it, will, if you know how to read this code, will produce these series of 3 numbers. And these 3 numbers tell you exactly, it's the longitude, latitude of a grid, not the one we're using today, but an ancient one. And those numbers, in order to arrive at that precision where every single one of those 83,000 sites are precisely on Earth, to arrive at that, we would normally imagine that they would have to be in space and have satellites, a GPS system like we have today. I mean, how could they do this? But what his work has shown is that this is true, that these codes that are coming out of these pyramids are real and actually do delineate. But in order to understand what the system is, you have to look at something very interesting. Ra and Aragat and Chikatet Arlich Vomalites, they knew where the new poles were going to be, and they knew what the new equator was going to be, which is the one we have now. They knew that before, at least 200 years before it actually happened. They calculated that, however they did that. But the prime meridian that we use today is not the one he uses. The one that Thoth is using is the Great Pyramid itself. If you take the North Pole and the South Pole and run a line directly over the apex of the Great Pyramid, that is the prime meridian of this system. And which makes sense. It's the first building that was built. And furthermore, that first building wasn't just placed anywhere on Earth. It happens to be the precise center of the entire landmass of the Earth. They knew that even if you couldn't find that building for some reason, that that spot is not going to move more than a few inches over 13,000 years. There's another thing about Carl's work that's pretty interesting. It was introduced into the United Nations, and the whole system of all of this was given to them, and exactly how it works, and this the new system that they had found and everything, and how this all these pyramids were all around the world were connected to it. And but they didn't know what to do. I mean, it defies everything that modern man knows about ancient man. This makes ancient man on almost the same level that we're on, and how could this possibly be? But they couldn't deny it either, because there it was. It was mathematical fact. And so it's been kind of just shoved under the floor of somewhere in the United Nations. Has been put under a carpet somewhere and just forgotten, because it didn't fit into anything that we know. And so what I'd like to do now is just to read to you directly from Carl's work some of what he has found to be true, and then you'll begin to understand this. I was trying to develop a code system to be based on the language of latitude and longitude, degrees, minutes, and seconds. The idea being to multiply the 3 numbers in each set to a single number, 15 degrees times 15 minutes times 01.6000 seconds. Products at 360, the number of degrees of an arc in any circle. For example, when I divided 360 degrees constant by 19 degrees, 18 minutes, to 01.05263157892 seconds, I found myself on the parallel of latitude, which crosses the Mexico's round 360 degrees Quihuiculico pyramid just south of Mexico City. But later, when probing the larger 21,600, the number of nautical miles in the Earth's polar circumference, I found that when I divided it down through 51 degrees and 10 minutes to 42.3529411 seconds, it crossed the exact center of England's Stonehenge, another round 360-degree monument, which originally had 60 stones around its perimeter, as 60 stones times 360 degrees multiplies to exactly 21,600. Problem is, these pyramid grid scenarios kept coming. Egypt's El Kula pyramid at 36, its bent pyramid of Sinafu, 180, the Druid Mound in Massachusetts, 180, the earthen ideogram fort at Newark, Ohio, 2,160, the Temple of the Atlantis at Tula in Mexico, 2,880, the Giza Sphinx at 5,400, Georgia's Kolomoliki Mound, 7,200, Ohio's Seep Mound, 8,640, Mississippi's Emerald Mound, and the Red Pyramid of Sinufu at Darshu, 10,800, the Great Triangle drawn on the plains of Nazca in Peru, 17,280, and Germany's Golo Earth Circle near Bond, 27,000. The eye and the mile-long face at Poverty Point, Louisiana, 32,400. The Oregon Vortex, 48,600. Manos, another drawing on Nazca's plains, 64,800. And North Bimini's Shark Mound, and the pyramid at the Magicians at Uxmal, 129,600, all of which are divisible by 360. Now that you've heard Munck's words, you begin to understand that there is this precision grid of 83,000 sites all over the world that are precisely put on the planet, precisely in very specific places, and that it was not possible that this could have been done by all these indigenous tribes like the Mayans or the Egyptians or the Chinese, etc., but rather it had to be a single mind, a single thought, a single plan to do this. There is no other way. And this changes the whole understanding of history and who we were before and who we are now.